Well, hello, it's Cyber Us this week as we dive into the world of computers for a change. And I want to see if my now 8-year-old 27-inch Intel iMac is still usable in this age of Apple Silicon. Now, I got a bit of a history with Apple. After using Windows machines exclusively in work and at home for years, I wanted something different, at least for a home computer. And in 2007, after a couple of crappy Windows laptops and desktops that lasted about 5 minutes past their warranty and looked dreadful, I bought my first iMac, a bog standard 20-inch job, and I was hooked. 5 years later, I got a much larger 27-inch now, 2012 iMac, and 5 years later again, I got this machine, cosmetically identical but much more modern 27-inch 2017 now iMac with a fast, for the time at least anyway, Intel quad-core processor, 32GB of RAM, a 256GB solid-state drive, and a gorgeous 5K display. When Apple then transitioned to their own chips late in 2020, they abandoned the larger screen all in one iMac. It now maxing out at a much more lifestyle, if you like, 24-inch unit. And while it looks lovely, it's just too small for my and many other photographer, videographer, professionals even, for their needs. Apple's solution, a Mac Studio and separate studio display, something I was not interested in at the time anyway, so I kept going with my iMac for a while until eventually I got a Mac Mini as my main computer. Now I've since moved on to an M4 MacBook Pro with the more powerful and standard chip as well, so it's got more cores, whatever that means. 24GB of RAM and a 1TB SSD, and I use this with my 27-inch 4K ViewSonic monitor for all my needs, be that at my desk or away from it, without the monitor then, of course. And I love it. It's the most powerful computer I've ever owned, and I really can't see me changing it for a number of years yet, unless Apple does bring out a new larger screen iMac, that is. But even then, it would have to be something really very special, something like maybe a 32-inch display. 32-inch 5K display, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? So for the past couple of years, my old iMac has been living up the loft under a dust sheet. Now, I did try using it up there about a year ago, but it seemed to be having some power supply issues, and so up in the attic it remained. Until that is, I had the bright idea last week to bring it out of retirement to compare its photo editing performance with my much more modern and powerful MacBook Pro. Can the iMac still cut the mustard or stay powered on even? I'm not going to do any benchmarking tests and applications here. I want to see how it operates with some more real world tasks, both subjective and objective, and particularly those that us photographers might be more interested in. Before beginning though, it's easy to see why the iMac is so beloved by many and me. I mean, just look at its insanely beautiful design and construction, and then compare that to the comparative mess of my MacBook Pro setup. Anyway, aesthetics aside, let's get on with doing these tests. And for the first one, I just want to compare the times taken on each machine to import 150 Fujifilm X-H2 RAW files at 85 megabytes each from a CF Express Type B card into Adobe Lightroom, and then see how long it takes to export them onto an external SSD as JPEGs. Now, identical import and export settings all around, and I even use the same card reader and obviously the same card for each test. So for the MacBook Pro, the import and export times were 26.5 seconds and 69.59 seconds respectively, while the iMac took 90.43 seconds for the import and, well, nearly 11 minutes to perform the same export task. I was so shocked that I ran the export test twice again before realizing a couple of things. Firstly, my MacBook Pro supports Thunderbolt 5 connection speeds, even though I got Thunderbolt 4 SSDs, versus Thunderbolt 3 on the iMac, so there's still an advantage there. Then there's the internal SSD to consider as well. The MacBook Pro has a lightning fast 1 terabyte SSD capable of insane speeds, really. Whereas let's just say the iMac hasn't. One thing though, no fan noise from either machine during the entire import and export process. Next up, a focus stacking test, and I copied a 38 raw image stack, again shot with the XH2, from a card into a folder, converted them to DNG with Adobe's DNG converter, and then stacked them with Helicon Focus. So my usual focus stacking workflow, and I timed everything from the very first copying from the card to the finish image stage. Now, the MacBook Pro took around 3.5 minutes to do the whole thing. Time to make yourself a nice-ish, cup of coffee from one of those machines. With the iMac taking enough time to make a proper coffee, from grinding the beans to, boiling the water and pouring it out. Only 12 minutes if you're asking to do the same task from start to finish. What I will say is that the speed on my MacBook Pro was accompanied by some fan noise, which ramped up from the 1 minute 20 mark. The iMac remained silent throughout the whole stacking process, probably down to its much more efficient cooling and larger larger chassis and internals. Finally, I edited a raw image, and yes, for the pedantic souls up there, I know they're raw files and not raw images. Okay, did it on my iMac just to see if the experience on it is subjectively as pleasing, or with that 5K screen more enjoyable even than on my 4K ViewSonic monitor. Now, being frank here, it was a much slower experience, but there were no spinning beach balls or fans while Lightroom did its thing, but it was noticeably slower while masking, etc. and on my MacBook Pro, all of which is to be expected, and none of which really, it's a bad thing, to be honest, is it? Photoshop is no longer optimized for Mac OS Ventura, which is the latest OS on this machine. It works well enough though, to be expected, I guess, with the extra RAM on the iMac, but not to the same speed and efficiency as on my optimized for Photoshop then MacBook Pro. Again, thoroughly expected given the age of the machine and the software. What was lovely though was the display. Now, that 5K panel is just dreamy for photo editing. I wish there were a way to use this old iMac as a monitor, but sadly it's too new for target display mode, and I don't possess the technical skills to tear it apart and modify it. What it has done though is made me think seriously about buying an Apple Studio display. I'll probably wait and see if they bring a new model out and discount the existing one someday, or I might just go to PC World. Right now, no. I don't think there's much point in doing a video editing, rendering and exporting test. It's clear that the new MacBook Pro would romp all over the iMac. Can you still edit video on it though? Well, of course you can, and I edited the photo editing in Lightroom sequence you just watched on it. Just don't expect miracles, that's all. So is the iMac going to stay down here, or is it going back up the loft? Well, I've got no room for it here in my little office come studio, that's for sure, but I might just keep it out in the conservatory for a while and use it for some stuff in there, rather than shutting myself away in here all the time, editing photographs or whatever. iMacs, they really do have a special place in my heart though. They were my introduction to Apple computing after all, and since then I've owned any number of devices, both large and small. The tagline, "It just works," rings true for me. Windows machines may be better for certain tasks, but with all the faff of getting things just perfect to extract that performance, that's not for me. Just being able to turn it on, do what I need to do, and then turn it off when I'm finished is just fine by me. No, flashing of the BIOS and doing this and doing that. Trouble with this iMac is that it's no longer supported by Apple, so it doesn't get software updates other than security ones. And it's stuck on OS 13 Ventura for life, and eventually when those security updates stop, using it online will become a struggle. Now I know there are workarounds to get more modern operating systems working on older machines, but as I said, it just works is my bag. I just don't want to be, messing around installing stuff and faffing around. Whatever, at least the power supply issues I was experiencing seem to have gone, so were more likely to do with the electrical feed to the loft than the iMac itself. Anyway, what to do with it now? What to do? I don't know. Anyway, did you notice anything different with this video? It's the first one for this channel anyway that I'm filming with my new light. I've abandoned my ring lights and I've now got an LED and softbox up there somewhere. I'll show you a picture of it now. So hopefully the lighting will be a lot more beautiful and soft and natural. Probably isn't. Anyway, there may not be a video next week. I'm not sure yet. I need to rest up a little bit. My health's not great right now. I'm getting exhausted. Along with a few other things that aren't very pleasant at the moment, so I may take a 1 week break. If I do feel alright though, I'll put something together and put it out, but otherwise we'll be back in 2 weeks with a look at what is it? It'll be our latest. It'll be the October, yeah, that's right, it'll be the October nature stroll update video. Oh, they're so exciting. I think I get about 40 views on those. Unbelievable. Anyway, yeah, so we'll be back with that. And then I think probably the week after that, it's going to be a look at my vintage lenses. Anyway, I might be all right. And I might be back next Saturday. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, until we do see you again, ta-ra.